where we left off. King's Landing is dealing with the fallout of the beheading of Jaehaerys, Aegon's son, by blood and cheese. We arrive at this episode, episode 2, with King's Landing reeling. You have the shock factor in Dragonstone when Rhaenyra hears about this death of Jaehaerys and how she is being blamed and she's being called Kinslayer. Not Kingslayer, Kinslayer. Make sure you guys read the subtitles. Ricky Flux, I thought the way we break this down, for the most part, we break down three key scenes. You know, before we get to those 3 key scenes, I did want to ask you: did you think this episode was better than episode 1?
Ooh, I had my favorite scene, which is Otto, Aegon, Kristen Cole. But I don't know if it's better. The shock factor in the first one, I think, was better. The Eric fight didn't hit me as much as I think the writers wanted it to hit, and it's partly because like I don't really have an emotional attachment to those guys. But I will just say both teams are down bad here. Different reasons. There's inner turmoil at both. Both their hands, basically, Otto, Daemon, are crazy. Or sorry, not crazy. Kind of on the outside looking in. Definitely Otto. Daemon basically he fled Dragonstone. Is he really going to what's it called?
Harrenhal.
Harrenhal, thank you. I was mixing up Riverlands and Harrenhal together. Higher lands, I was thinking. There's a lot of turmoil. I love it. It kind of explains why we get Game of Thrones, because the Targaryen house of dragons can't get their crap together. So I love the show. It's really working for me. But as far as did this beat the first one, I just don't know, because the final climax, big moment, I prefer in the first one than this one.
If you ask me that question, my instant reaction is say the second one was better, just because I think the acting for Rhys Ifans as Otto Hightower and Emma D'Arcy as Rhaenyra both were off the charts this episode. I think Rhaenyra, great comeback episode after a nearly mute episode 1. Right? And a lot of physical acting. I thought here she brought it. Her and Daemon is one of those key scenes that we're going to be discussing, along with the removal of Otto as the hand to Aegon. So it's interesting when you juxtapose those two. One is the literal hand, and then you have like obviously what we thought was the most trusted confidant of Rhaenyra on the outs. And they're two people that you can't imagine first. Like you can't imagine just turning around and going back to their respective teams or their loved ones or their families. Daemon not going back to Rhaenyra because Daemon is so hard-headed. And Rhaenyra has clearly stated that she does not trust Daemon, and she never did, right? And then you have Otto being kicked out his hand for the second time, this time not by Viserys, but by Viserys' son. And it's got to hurt when your grandson is kicking you out. He's not turning around. Ricky, who's most likely to be gone for good? Daemon with Team Black, or Otto, Team Green?
Great question. I think if you look at it just plainly, like not from like an audience, like actually the politics and what's going on, it's for sure Aegon definitely needs Otto more than Rhaenyra needs Daemon. But the problem is Rhaenyra is married to Daemon and needs his dragon and needs a warrior by her side to lead an army, versus Aegon is like, I could find another hand. And it's even though Otto's importance is so important, why I said I think that need is greater than Daemon, I just don't think he'll ever realize that, or he won't realize that for now. And that's why I will say it's Daemon.
Wait, so you're saying Daemon's more likely to return, right?
Yes, more likely to return, but not necessarily like needed more than.
Right. Like if Daemon returns, it's not going to be all as well at Dragonstone. You know, I feel like he would return because like I cannot see in a world like I kept thinking like these two are going away. Can you imagine if they swapped? You know, and it would Daemon. I can't see joining Alicent, Aegon, and Daemon is so volatile that he would be a mixture of disaster, a 3-headed monster if it was Daemon, Kristen Cole, and Aegon. That would be nightmarish. But I could see Otto going to Team Green more so. Excuse Team Black. I keep confusing them.
Whoa.
So Otto wants to do what's best for the realm. And he also in that conversation said, and he notices what a monster Aegon is. And he said to Aegon, you were not truly picked by your father to
Love
be
that.
the successor. When he said that, I was just like, damn. Like he's spilling truth right now, and he's spilling beans that he probably shouldn't be saying. And these are type of things you say and you don't come back from. So there's no way Otto goes back to Team Green. Like, what is this guy going? Where is he going to go? Are they just going to ignore him, forget he exists after this performance that he had in this episode? I don't know. But I just want to say, like, he does want to see the realm prosper. He notices Aegon was a mistake. Maybe we see it almost like a Tyrion going to, right, Daenerys in Game of Thrones after he kind of escapes, but he has been exiled and will be put to death. But I just thought I'd lay that out there really quick.
Okay, he threw it out there. I'm going to swat it out of the air.
What's he going to do?
I think he's going to try to plot behind the scenes. He is way too loyal to his own family. He is like basically the ranking officer, the ranking or oldest like person in the family. He runs his family basically. Besides, like obviously he doesn't because he's not the king. His grandson is, but like he's not going to leave his family. Think about season 1. He knew this episode proves that he never believed what Alicent said. He knew that like, oh, Viserys must have been talking about Aegon the Conqueror. There's no absolute way that he was actually talking about Aegon because he knew then that he was a crazy person and this would exactly happen. He knew that then. So he went with it because that was in the best interest of his family. Remember when he was saying to Alicent, when Alicent cut Rhaenyra? He was like, I didn't think you had that in you. He was so proud of her. She thought he was going to be pissed. He was like, no, this shows me you could be queen, basically. So, or queen regent, or whatever you want to call it. So it's like, no, this guy ain't switching sides. No way. He's just going to try to run things behind the scenes. And maybe one day when Aegon figures out Criston Cole can't be my guy, and maybe he passes over Larys, or he has a run at Larys, and Larys can't be his guy either, he comes back into the frame.
I just have a hard time imagining him doing anything because it's not like he can plot for the death of his grandson, first of all, because he's family, and you talk about how he values family, but also who's king. Like, who's king? Does Alicent assume the throne? I don't think that's how it works. Does he have to name an heir? What if he doesn't name an heir? Is that a way for Alicent to take the throne? I don't know. I'm spitballing, throwing ideas out here, Ricky Flex. But I think since you brought it up, I want to talk about one of the major scenes of this episode is the removal of Otto as the hand to Aegon. Ricky Flex, this scene, Rhys Ifans in his back, just absolutely went off. And I couldn't tell if this episode was more of him overacting or just the people around him just aren't great. Like a Fabian Frankel, not as good. Whoever plays Aegon, not as good. I do think he really left it all out there. Even if he overacted, I still think it was a great performance. I just thought his snarl, the way he's kind of serving different looks here, and the way he's responding in disgust to Aegon, I thought these two, this was coming to a boiling point, their relationship. It was going to get to a point where it seems like every move Aegon makes is a mistake, and then every idea he has is a bad idea. And it's basically Otto ruling for Aegon. I think Aegon just became fed up with it, and we're just going to have to deal with him being a dumb, angry, violent king for the foreseeable future.
Not like we haven't seen that before in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
No, I think Rhys Ifans was in his bag. MVP of the episode. I see that in your outline. Absolutely steals the show. I don't think he overreacted. I think that's just more of an old man pissed off, finally like having his breaking
having it up to here.
Yeah, exactly. And it worked. And Criston Cole, I will hear that about the acting. Yes, he might not be great. You just said his name. I forget it already. Starts with an F.
Fabian Frankel. He shut off his Instagram comments. Did you see that? The social media.
But like that was also because like people hate his character.
We'll get to that.
Which fair. But I do think I like Aegon. I do like Aegon. Thomas Carney or whatever. I think he's good. I think that scene in particular is just like he wasn't good until the end of it when he could really show off why he's so good. And that's when he's snarky, when he's being a brat, and he's like, all right, Cole's my hand. Like that's when he's at his best. That's where we're like saying this kid's a great actor. That's when we're saying that. So Risa Fiennes, maybe a little bit overacting, but I totally understand it. And I think it was actually good for him to do that. And Kristen Cole, maybe you're right on that. And Thomas Carney, I think he's still good.
Dude, it even looked like in the first episode with a Otto, it looked like they were caking on the makeup. I don't know if
a little bit.
Dude,
a little bit.
They dressed him to the nines. Like if you look at season 1, he's not really throwing fits, and all of a sudden he's throwing fits, and he's serving looks, and he looks like he's wearing eyeliner in the first scene with Allison. He was. They made me think like we're not going to see this dude for a long time. He was acting like it was the last job he was ever going to have. He was in his bag, bro.
It's like it's exactly what it was. You get fired and you unleash the clip. You would say, all right, you suck. You're walking out of the office with your box and you're saying this place sucks. You're terrible at this. You hate this person. It's like you're just talking shit. That's what he was doing.
The way he turns his head, I'm pulling up a couple quotes here where he says, like Kristen Cole, like Aegon goes, Kristen Cole has taken action. And then you have the slow head turn from Otto. And what has Sir Kristen done? The seriousness, right? After doing that. And it's like, there's no way that Aegon is as dumb as I think he is. That's like going through the thought bubble every single time that Otto is talking. And then it even has that moment where Aegon is saying like, hey, there's this brilliant plan from Sir Kristen, who went to Sir Eric and said he's going to go to Dragonstone, pretend to be his twin brother, and kill Rhaenyra. Brilliant. The way he says brilliant after that, it's like Tweedledee and Tweedledum, just like combining forces. And then to have them as king and then hand at the end of this conversation, it might be the dumbest duo in the history of Game of Thrones.
No wonder the Targaryens were not in power during Game of Thrones. It's all making sense how the imbeciles that are behind the Targaryen kingdom is insane. I love the line. We mentioned it before, but I forget what it is exactly. But it's like when he's like, "Is that what you think?" When he said like Viserys he picked him to be king. It's a
simple line, but the delivery is so good.
Amazing. That's why the overacting. I can see your point, but I'm like, no, but he was in his bag, man. Like I was all over that. I rewound that scene and watched it again. I'm like, I live for this. This is why I watch House of the Dragon. Why I watch Game of Thrones.
He was throwing some spicy brown mustard on everything he was saying in this episode. But this was coming to a head. Him and Aegon don't see eye to eye. Otto wants to be a good ruler, but he wants to also have Aegon keep in mind, like Viserys, even though he wasn't the best ruler, he had the best intentions at times. And it seems like with Otto as his hand, Aegon didn't really have an identity as a ruler. You see him in those councils or when those forums where the public are coming, the common folk, and they're asking for things. He wants to just give them everything. Otto has to step in and say, nope, we have to do this and this. He was very overbearing on Aegon. And also the idea of, like, once again, not seeing eye to eye. Otto with the effed up line saying, like, this is an opportunity, right, to blame Rhaenyra for the death of Jaehaerys, right? We're going to honor, as he says, Jaehaerys throughout the streets, right, and gain sympathy for the upcoming war. Aegon says, no way, I don't want to do this. They end up doing it anyway. I feel like now that Aegon has had this, his son assassinated, beheaded, and then he has this new hand that he says will rule with the iron fist. He says that with a Kristen Cole who is kind of uncontrollable at this time. I think we're in for a lot of chaos for the rest of the season, but I feel like this is where we're going to get like Aegon, like the type of ruler that will, destroy people. He's not going to be a forgiving ruler whatsoever. He has found his identity, and it happens to be the thing that Otto was most fearful of.
Yeah, and he picks Kristen Cole because of that one action, but he doesn't pick Aemon, who Aemon and Kristen Cole were kind of plotting together about the Riverlands. and how important those are going to be in this upcoming war that we're going to get sooner than later. So that's also another interesting. Whereas like Kristen Cole, I could totally see him being hand for an episode or two, then dropping off.
Huge flaw of the episode to me, Ricky Flex, is that at the beginning of the episode, an emotional Aegon, after, right, literally moments, like the day after the death of his son, he turns to Kristen Cole and says, "And where were you?" Obviously, Kristen Cole going through his mind, thinking about like Alicent with a shirt off in front of him, riding him. And then Kristen Cole saying, "I was abed." And then you have Aegon saying, "Abed, abed." And after that, I'm like, I mean, he's not in his good graces. And all of a sudden, Kristen Cole comes up with one good idea, and now he's the freaking hand of the king. Did you forget about Larys and like what he has done for the High Towers? It just seemed like this was supposed to be some type of misdirection that just made zero sense to me. I know Aegon doesn't know about the relationship between Kristen Cole and his mom, but I feel like after that moment that happened a few scenes earlier with Kristen Cole, that he might not name him hand.
Yeah, it's weird. And like Larys, like he would have been the best. Like after that scene where he said, "Oh, Otto was your father's hand," you thought like, "Oh, Larys, leader in the clubhouse. Once Otto, it's like a head coach. Once he's fired, who's next in line? Betting favorite? Definitely Larys." And then out of nowhere, Kristen Cole, Knights, commander of the Kingsguard, he just gets it, and he's sleeping with his mom. He's kind of to blame that his son, the heir to the throne, just got murdered. Next day, he's in charge. I don't think so. So yeah, that's a little red flag to be thrown.
Dude, Larys served his son's murderer on a plate for him.
Yeah, like, dude, Larys killed his own father and brother and burnt down his home.
He wants it too
Alicent
bad.
And
he wants hand too bad. He wants it too hard.
That is questionable.
But it also might show, like, if you were trying to find a way out and argue for Kristen Cole as hand, which no one would do, you would say, well, he's a terrible decision maker, meaning Aegon. And so when Kristen Cole comes up with this quote unquote brilliant idea to send Eric to go kill Rhaenyra, I mean, he's just like genius, hand of the king, and he makes decisions on a whim. So I guess it makes sense in that regard. And speaking of Kristen Cole and Eric, the scene where Kristen Cole comes from Alicent's room. He's watching her room. He didn't just have sex with her, even though it seems like they have sex every time they're with one another. Alicent's really going through it right now. And she says, "Are you seeking absolution? Are you seeking for forgiveness?" to Kristen Cole. And he says he has nothing to be guilty for. And that's the end of the scene. And then Alicent goes to like nearly drown herself inside of a bathtub by herself. Kristen Cole, then the next scene, goes to Eric and says, "Where were you during the time that Jaehaerys was murdered?" And guess where Eric was? With Aegon. And somehow he's trying to pin the death of Jaehaerys on Eric and guilt him into going to Dragonstone in a stupid decision to go kill Rhaenyra. Holy shit, Ricky Flex. I want to say Kristen Cole is one of the biggest scumbags in Game of Thrones history. And I understand why he shut off the comments because, dude, it doesn't get more scummy than this dude.
Eric is just trying to eat a meal after a long night's work because he had to guard Aegon getting effed up with the boys. He had to stay up and just on guard. And he finally gets to eat some sloppy soup or stew. And you got Kristen Cole throwing out accusations like this. And hey, those other two Knights of the Knights Guard or whatever, those running out, I'm like, that would have been me, but even faster.
Yeah, dude, that was low-key hilarious where they get up. That's like when a dad is yelling at his son and then like the two other sons, the siblings, just run out of the room because they don't want to get buried.
Never been there before.
Oh yeah, that there's some personal type of moment that just came out of me there. But Kristen Cole being an asshole, let's list them out. So we just talked about him lying to Aegon about the night of his son's murder, saying he was quote unquote abed, pinning the death of Jaehaerys on Eric and guilts him into going to Dragonstone to attempt to kill Rhaenyra. What else? Says he has no guilt to Alicent. He has no guilt for having sex with her the night of Jaehaerys' death. And bangs Alicent at the end of this episode after being named king, and Alicent slaps him in the face. He's the ultimate scumbag, dude. He cannot get any worse. That's four.
He also sleeping with
one episode.
And he also just naturally, he just sleeps with, like, he breaks his honor of the night, commander of the King's Guard, or just being a member of the King's Guard. He breaks that oath. So it's just insane. Let alone with Allison, who's also breaking a code, and he knows that, yada, yada, yada. It's insane. Kristen Cole, worst guy in the show. That's a lot to say because there's a lot of bad people in the show. Damon freaking killed his wife to get another wife and more. There's a lot of bad people. Kristen Cole, he's on my most hated list, top of the list.
And him and Aegon as a duo, just a couple flamethrowers out there. It's not going to turn out well, Ricky Flex, right? And they need someone for wartime. They need somebody. And I know that might be Kristen Cole, right? He seems very much into the chess, but he can't play the political game. That's the only thing. He can't play the political game. See what a bad decision he is in that regard, especially with what he does with Eric. And speaking of Eric versus Eric, I think we should talk about this battle, Ricky Flex, that they have at the end of the episode, and then we'll dive into a little bit of Daemon and Rhaenyra. Did you notice that I was trying to highlight for this document the moments of this episode for both Team Green versus Team Black? And I found that I just kept on listing moments for Team Green, and I only had 3 moments for Team Black itself. That felt big, impactful. The scenes for Team Black were heavy, right? And they kind of help balance the scales between the two. But all the action this season seems to be coming from Team Green, or at least the majority of entertainment. Can we agree?
We definitely agree. Rhaenyra says one line, 3 words, or I want Aemon Targaryen, 4 words in the first episode, and she's supposed to be queen. So it's no crap, everything's coming from Team Green. The house where Allison's sleeping with the commander of the King's Guard, now the freaking hand of the king, there's family turmoil there. Obviously, there's stuff on Team Black, but Green is just at the forefront of everything, and especially when you're around the king being a child basically, and just being the king itself, having a lot of responsibilities more than Rhaenyra, who's a legend. She's the queen, but she's on Dragonstone on an island. There's nothing going on there, so there's a lot more stuff going on King's Landing. Naturally, there's going to be more do-to-dos to go on on that team.
Do-to-dos. So there was, at the end of episode 1, a intruder creeping around the castle of Team Green. At the end of episode 2, there is an intruder creeping around the castle of Team Black. And this is another flaw I had of the episode. Right? Well, I have a couple flaws with this. I have 2 or 3 now I'm thinking about it. How is no one guarding Rhaenyra? Rhaenyra at the beginning of this episode says she wants to double security. And she is at any point, at the end of this episode, she is with one maiden who leaves the room, and Eric enters when he's not even supposed to be guarding the queen at that time. So, to me, it's just, how do you leave yourself this vulnerable at a time where Rhaenyra is emphasizing security? And I guess it's showing both, obviously that juxtaposition at the end of each episode, how there's a lot of betrayal and treason going on. But I just thought it was ridiculous that she is being left alone by one maid and then not guarded by a single sword in the castle. That was ridiculous, Ricky.
Well, she was guarded by one person, and obviously Eric, thinking that he's Eric, took his place. My problem is what you said. The security's up. It makes no sense. Obviously, it's a twin, yada, yada, yada. And you see more people walking around Dragonstone. But I don't know, too many coincidences. There would be light bulbs going on in people's heads or alarm bells going off. I just not sold on it. Not only was I not sold on the emotional aspect, I understand it. I'm not sold on it because Eric, not big. We weren't big attachments to, but also just how it even happened, especially the episode directly after what happened. If it was 5 episodes down the road where maybe a middle of the war is going on, more security had to be fighters and get shipped off to a battle or something, more chaotic things were going on, there would be a better understanding. But literally the direct next episode after you say double security, it just doesn't make much sense.
I do want to say someone that's probably in better graces after the events of Eric versus Eric is Mysaria. Mysaria, it probably let someone know that was not Eric with an E, right? This is Eric with an A, So I think she probably let someone know as she is about to be shipped away by Rhaenyra? Does this change her fortune when it comes to her relationship with Rhaenyra? Who knows, right? Interesting there. I did think the action itself was great. I love a good one-on-ones, like sword fighting scene in Game of Thrones. It'll get me every time. However, I don't know if there was enough baked in to both of these characters, the Erics themselves, into me really caring about, right, their deaths. And this goes with Jaehaerys. Yes, that scene was incredibly done, high tension, horror type of vibe. But we had one scene with Jaehaerys at the King's Council, and we don't really care about Jaehaerys, right? The moment itself, and also like the horror and the shock of having this baby being beheaded, that helps, right? That sounded wrong. That just like, wow, like I can't believe we just saw that. But this one, it seemed like we had these guys that are kind of introduced in the last 2 episodes, maybe the finale of season 1, and then are coming in. You have one line here where when Kristen Cole is confronting Eric with an A, Auric, we'll call him, he says, like, they built in this one line where he says, one soul, 2 bodies. That was like the key like line, I think, from that exchange between Kristen Cole and Auric before he's going off to kill Rhaenyra. So I don't think there was really a lot there. I thought it was emotional. You do get a sense like, oh my God, like they really did care about each other, and it took a lot for them to separate in the first place. And I just thought there wasn't really enough there. We're having 2 deaths here at the end of the episodes, but are they like juicy enough? I don't think so.
Yeah, they didn't earn it. Yeah, they didn't earn it. Like at least like Game of Thrones, like yeah, you build out a character the whole season, and then it's like, oh, out of nowhere they die. Even if it was only after season 1, it's maybe the main character. It's like, oh, done. But we were so invested in that character. That's why it matters. And yes, that's the protagonist. But there's other characters where that happens to all the time. It's just here. It's like, you know, even like season 1 finale with Aemon killing Luke. It's like, well, I didn't care. I don't care about Luke. I really don't.
Yeah,
like
they keep doing this. They keep doing that at the end of episodes.
Like I like what they did there. Did not see it coming, but it's like, all right, I'm gonna go eat my dinner now after watching that episode. I don't care. I'm not like, holy crap, I have to tell everyone about this. Like Luke died. No, I don't care. Same with this. I really don't care.
Yeah, I did like the Erics though. You know,
they're cool. They're good. They're loyal.
The other flaw, I had one more that I now have to say. The confusion. I like knowing which Eric was who. For me, if I was looking at it, the way I deciphered which Eric was who, I love how the guy walks in, by the way. The Lord, I forgot who it was. One of the lords comes in and goes like, which one? You know,
yeah, he was the guy guarding the door and got duped by Eric.
Him in full panic saying, holy shit, how do you choose? And I'm like watching this, I'm like, I don't know either. You know? I thought Eric with an E, who guards Rhaenyra, he got a slash on his leg, right? Apparently they both had slashes on their leg, but it really was pronounced with Eric with an E. And Eric with an E seems like he has a kill shot in line with Auric. He's on top of him. And then Auric, right, pushes in that cut. And then he kills and puts a sword through the stomach of Eric with an E. That's what I thought, Ricky Flex. But afterwards he says, "Sorry, my queen," to Rhaenyra. So I just thought the confusion there was off the charts, and I didn't know who was who.
The confusion was definitely on purpose. Like they did that on purpose. Did I love it? Not really. But then at the same time, I was like, well, we got that great line. Like, how do you know which is Eric? Like that was pretty
freaking out, dude. Freaking out.
But like in that scene of like, oh, I'm sorry, like my queen or whatever. I was like, oh no, Eric killed his brother Auric, the guy on Team Green. Team Black won, but then they lost because he committed suicide. So, yeah, no, but. Still, like, they were good characters, but like we weren't attached to them. So good scene, like we've been talking about, good scene. But you know what? We're gonna we're gonna sleep well tonight. You know, we're gonna be fine, and we're gonna do the same thing tomorrow.
Eric was an important character, protector of Rhaenyra, vows to protect her at the season finale of season 1, the season finale of season 1 finale, and he gave her a crown. He gave her a crown, but
Mm.
one soul, two bodies. If one went, he couldn't live with like being killing his brother. Any other thoughts here? Oh yeah, we have to do. I mean, are you ready to move on to Damon and Rhaenyra, Team Green for a sec? Team Black, Jesus Christ.
Damon and Rhaenyra, great acting. Great acting. We definitely get some intentions with Damon here. It's just like this mistrust. How will this end? I think is the key question going for the rest of the series, maybe only season of whatever happens to Damon. He's just never going to accept Rhaenyra as queen, even though they're married. I think, and Damon was the heir at one point. So I just think, you know what, this is going to have to be Damon dying at some point. And he's a fan favorite, of course. We talked about that. We did that last episode, but this is just never going to work.
What it felt like is two parents getting divorced. That's what it felt like. Hey, you've broken my trust. I will never trust you. Those type of lines. It felt like two parents that are being separated, a relationship that is like on the cusp, or if not already over. And that's where Game of Thrones is like the thing we said with Otto. They leave you in the dust sometimes. You don't think like anything of like their future, and they might give us something, or it's like an unexpected path that they take. And even Rhaenyra says to Baela when she walks in, where is her father going, right? Damon. And she says he set his own path. That type of thing you tell like your kid or your stepkid, and you're like, God damn, that's hard to hear. But the big thing was Damon not answering Rhaenyra when she says, like, are you going to like respect her claim to the throne? And like Rhaenyra, when she doesn't hear that, she starts to absolutely lash out a little bit. And not only that she doesn't trust him, but that she thinks that the death of Jaehaerys that Damon organizes is for selfish reasons. It's not to increase the claim for Rhaenyra or to get revenge. It's for himself and his appetite for violence and death. And I just think it's really, really, really going to be intensely hard to come back from these two characters. But I thought Rhaenyra, Emma D'Arcy, was absolutely unbelievable in this scene. I think there was pretty much, I might say it's even better dialogue that was had in this scene compared to Otto being removed as Hand. I thought she was on one as well.
Yeah, I agree. I would just say, like, yes, she's emotional in this, obviously. And Damon, I do agree with, like, oh, like, he just has a fire to the violence, fire to death. That's what he wants. A love to death, I guess. He just loves that. And he's selfish for that reason. I think really a big thing for me in this scene was when Rhaenyra just blatantly asked, basically, like, did you instruct them to kill the child if they couldn't find Aemon? And he says no. He said it twice. Do we believe him? I don't. I think he has
cut
that
away,
thirst.
like we said in that first episode. We said it. They cut away, and you don't know what exactly he said. If they don't kill, they can't find Aemon. They did that intentionally.
Right. So I don't believe him. I think he has that thirst for death, thirst for violence. I think he says, "Yup, kill him, kill whoever you could find that's a son to the heir or whatever. You got to do something." So I don't believe him. How does he gain back his trust? They talked about it. Remind me where he's going again. Not the Riverwinds, but starts with the H.
Harrenhal.
Or A, whatever it starts with.
H.
Yeah, H. Aaron. Yeah. Is he actually going there? I don't know. But if he gets Harrenhal, then definitely he earns the trust back of Rhaenyra.
Maybe that's what it'll be. Maybe it's him trying to earn back the trust of Rhaenyra, trying to him overcome his arrogance, and show support for Rhaenyra. I guess that's the way you do it, even though that's like what he was supposed to be doing in the first place. The thing is, like, I think it's just a broken trust that will be, it almost feels irreparable. It nearly feels irreparable. And yeah, even if Daemon didn't say that to those assassins and he's telling the truth, like, he hasn't earned the trust with Rhaenyra. That's like
exactly
the thing,
She says it. I don't believe you.
Then she calls him pathetic. It was tough. It was tough to hear that, especially after the ending of season 1. It feels like it's a quick turnaround with this relationship following right the end of last season. It fell off a cliff fast.
Dude, they cemented their love basically at Damon's wife's funeral. And then they got married right after that. Like, it's only been on a hot path for them, or a hot streak for them. And this is like their first big blow up. But this is, like you said, one where it's kind of like a end of like breakup blow up type of thing. But again, if he gets Aaron Hall, then I think everything's okay. I think even Rhaenys says that to Corlys when they're pillow talking. It's like, oh, if he gets Aaron Hall, like everything's fine.
Yeah, yeah. And he's riding Caraxes. It seems like he's on a mission. He's very emotional right now. Does he have too much pride to admit like that maybe he was doing this? He was asking for this hit on Aemon for selfish reasons. Yeah. Is he willing to do that? That's kind of like the answer we have to find out. And is he going to go to Harrenhal? If he's not going to Harrenhal, is he going elsewhere? Right? Is he just blowing off some steam somewhere else? I don't know. Just flying in the air for a few hours, come back to Dragonstone. Who knows? Whatever. But it remains to be seen. I think that's the thing to look out for most next episode is it seems like Otto, we might have a little break from Otto. You know, it might be like we're going to be, maybe they'll show where
Thank
he's
you for
going
your service.
next episode. But based on his efforts, I mean, job well done. Salute to you, sir. But Daemon finding out if he gets Harrenhal, is that enough to change the relationship between him and Rhaenyra? Anything else you're looking out for, Ricky Flux?
It's Daemon. It's got to be Daemon because they right when they shut off the dragon, him shipping off with the dragon, then they didn't go back to him. So that's got to be tackled next episode. I think they still haven't talked about the Riverland. They didn't go back to the Riverlands. They definitely were weighing that last episode. Aemon, Criston Cole also was brought up at a different time. They brought up the toys. Alicent brought up the toys. That could be another avenue they go. And then there's Adam like in Corlys thing going on. And Valeria, like I don't know what their angle is, but that's definitely like the weakest and the least amount of substance in these first two episodes. They're gonna have to tackle that at some point. What's this Adam guy and Corlys gonna do?
Alan.
Is it Alan or Adam? I thought it was Adam.
You talking about the black ball guy?
Yeah.
Alan. Alyn. Alan. I think also what you got to look out for, Criston Cole, after this execution, right after this assassination attempt goes awry, what's going to happen? Is he hand for a day? I think talk about Daemon, heir for a day. Who's going to be the hand for a day? Is it Criston Cole? If that's the case, is Larys going to step into the fold? Does Larys make a move knowing that Criston Cole is now going to be the hand for Aegon? Anything else? Maybe we hear a little bit more from Alicent, Criston Cole, last scene of this episode, them banging it out. Is there anything that it's going to come, maybe some truth that finds Aegon, or maybe someone else, maybe Larys holds it over Criston Cole's head, knowing that he is the hand of the king and knowing and Larys wants to be hand? A lot going on there.
Yeah, Larys is, I think, another player to watch because he's probably not going to be happy that he's got passed over.